Hey guys, welcome to a weekly question video. If you like these question videos, give this video a like, let me know what you think down below, and subscribe if you're not already. All of those things really do help us out here on the channel, and if you want to support what we're doing, help us continue to do it, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. So as always, a link to our Patreon is down below. So on this week's question video, somebody asked the question if I ever regret choosing such effective implements to bring to Coda for consideration. This question was left as a comment on a video where I kind of mentioned briefly that Coda gave me some parameters of what to look for our next implement, but he wanted me to do the research, bring some options to him so that he could then choose from those options. So I thought it would be fun in this video to go through our implements that we are currently using in our discipline system, what is currently in our rotation, talk about how we got them, what they feel like, and then ultimately answer the question, do I wish I would have chosen something different? So a lot of these implements we have talked about before on the podcast. A few we've talked about very, very recently, but I just want to go through kind of all of the implements that are currently in our rotation. Not every single implement is used for every single spanking, but these are kind of the implements that are currently being used. So the first is our Rosewood Paddle. Now we have talked about this pretty recently. It's a pretty new addition to our lineup. It is from the Etsy shop Little Red Spanking. It is made of Caribbean rosewood. It is their style called the Edwardian style, and we ordered it without holes, obviously. You can see that. Now this one is a little bit heavier. It's a little bit, it's just very stingy. It feels really, really intense. It's very impactful. Coda really does like using this one in most, if not every spanking. I think he uses this pretty much for every spanking because it is a really good start to our spankings. He doesn't have to put a lot of effort behind this paddle for it to make a big impact. And so whenever he starts a spanking with this, it really does make a very effective sting. It creates a really effective start to the discipline because he really does want to have a strong start to our discipline sessions so that I can kind of have that, a little bit of that shock factor in kind of regretting my behavior, regretting the reason the spanking is happening. And so this is a really good way to do that without having to put a lot of force behind the actual impact itself. And it really does create a very strong sensation. This one was something that I researched when we decided to go down the road of kind of transitioning into using wooden implements. We wanted something that would be really effective, and what we had been using, what our experience was with very lightweight woods, and those were just not super effective. He was having to put a lot of force behind using the lighter weight woods, so we wanted something heavier. We wanted something that was well designed, and so I looked at all of the options out there. I did some research. I talked to some friends about what they were using and ultimately decided that Caribbean rosewood fit the bill for the type of wood that we were looking for. And also, I just really liked this design. Coda really liked this design too. I liked how it's shaped. I don't know. For me, I really do enjoy having implements that are very aesthetically pleasing as well. And so this just really kind of fit all the criteria that we were looking for. It was between this one and the Victorian style paddle from the same Etsy shop. And Coda just liked this one a little bit more because it's a little wider at its widest point, and so he really liked that. And so that is that one. So this one we have not talked about before. It is a very recent addition to our collection, and it is a paint stick or ruler style paddle made of purple heartwood. I think that the handle is walnut. but the spanking side is Purple Heart. Now, Purple Heart is like, I would say it's a medium to heavy wood. But because of the shape, because of the, how thin it is, it's only about 1 inch wide. It is not a very heavy paddle in the hand. It also, it creates a really impactful stinging sensation, and it's more concentrated too because of how thin it is, and it really does just create a different sensation. It creates a different impact, but it's still very, it builds on, the sensation builds as he's using it, and so he really does like this one to kind of concentrate in on certain spots a little bit better. This one is used right after the Rosewood Paddle. The Rosewood Paddle, he kind of covers the entire like target area that, you know, every area that he plans to spank on me, which is pretty much like my bottom and upper thighs. He kind of covers that whole space with the rosewood. This, he kind of concentrates right into the lower half of my bottom, and he really likes to build the sensation there with this at that point in the spanking. And so I did look for this. This is something that I showed Coda. A lot of the members of our community were kind of looking into and researching these ruler style paddles, and Coda's really does enjoy kind of shorter implements, and so most of the ruler style paddles, most of the paint stick style paddles that are out there are much longer, and so I wasn't sure that we were going to find something that Coda would like. And I came across this, and I'm not going to remember the Etsy shop. I will link it down below. However, it is kind of a newer Etsy shop, and honestly, I'm kind of, you know, I'm impressed. It's a nice paddle. It's a nice kind of piece. It's very well made, so I do kind of recommend them, even though they are newer. They don't have necessarily the history or the reviews that some more established shops have, but I will link them down below. The only thing that I would say that has been kind of something that we regret is I wish I would have contacted the seller and asked them to put a hole at the end of the handle so that we could add a wrist strap, because Coda really does like having a wrist strap on the implements, and so that's the only thing about this one that I wish we would have done differently. However, Coda really likes the length of this. I believe that this is 12 inches, where most of these style paddles are 18 inches, and so he really does like that it's shorter. He finds that easier to handle, easier to use, and so he really likes that, and I really like that we were able to find something kind of in this style that works for us. The next one that he uses when he's using everything is Arcane. So this is I want to say that this is a 20-inch cane. This was given to us by some friends. I never thought we would use canes, honestly. That was just something that we had never really considered. And it's because, quite frankly, canes were kind of scary. They were just something that I was just not ever really thinking that I would ever be okay with. But as I was talking to this friend, she and her husband use canes a lot, and she just convinced me that we had to have one. And so she sent us one of theirs that they were no longer using, and Coda just really likes the shorter cane. We do have a longer cane back there that was also sent to us, and he's been kind of practicing with that one, considering if he's going to use it, but right now he just really does favor this size. Again, he just likes the control that he can have with this size of cane. Canes are extremely intense. It is not our most intense implement, however, that's coming up next, But canes are very intense. They have just a very concentrated sting, and I know that if Coda really wanted to make a point, he could use this much harder than he does. And so it's one of those things where it is very, very impactful. It makes a very big impression, and it is something that leaves a very lasting sensation as well. It's hard to describe the sensation of a cane, but all I can say is that it's super, super stingy, and it kind of leaves like a burning sensation on the skin, and that kind of builds as he's using it. And it's just something that it lives up to the hype. It is definitely something that you don't necessarily want to go through or experience. It is not our most severe implement, but it is definitely, I would say it's our second most severe implement. It's definitely something that when Coda uses it, it leaves an impression. So that is the cane. And like I said, I would have never picked this. I would have never thought to add this to our collection, but I'm glad we have it. I think that it's not as scary as I thought it was going to be. It's not as hard to use for Coda as he thought it was going to be. He was really kind of concerned about using a cane because he just had it in his mind that it was really, really difficult to use a cane safely. And that's why he likes this shorter one, because it gives him a lot of control and he feels like he can use it very safely and very effectively. And so that is something that I think surprised both of us, was that it is not as scary as we originally anticipated, but it is extremely effective and a very good tool in our toolbox of implements. This next one is the most severe implement that we have in our collection, in my opinion. It is the thing that I really do not want to experience. It does come out for every punishment. For corrections, he may or may not use it depending on what he views is necessary, but it is definitely something that I don't like. I definitely regret my decisions whenever this comes out, and it's something that is extremely, extremely difficult to handle, to bear, and Coda does use it quite often and quite effectively, and that is our loop. So our loop is made of the same material as the cane. It actually comes from the same company, and I don't think I mentioned that both of the cane and this loop come from the website Caniac. As of making this video, this loop is out of stock currently. They do restock periodically. You kind of have to stock their website and just check in every day, and if you see it back in stock, grab it before it's gone. It does sell out quite quickly and quite often, and like I said, as of right now, it is not in stock, so I will link the website down below. I will link the tab where you will find this if it is in stock, but like I said, I checked right before filming and it was not there, but who knows, it might be back soon. This is extremely difficult to take because it's not a standard loop. We've never actually used a standard loop. I have no idea what that feels like, but I do have a friend who I have talked to that they've recently got one of these, and they have used standard loops, and she said that this is by far worse than that. And so I got this for Coda as a gift. This is not something that I think he would have ever picked for us, but I got him this as a gift for our first boot camp. And if you haven't watched the video of like my first experience with the loop, I talk about how he tried it out during that first boot camp and the interesting experience that was. And so I'll link that video down below if you are interested in hearing that. It was one of the story times I did, and it just talked about my first experience feeling this. So this being a twisted loop, it just creates all these little individual points of impact. It is, you know, it's not super flexible, but it's flexible enough that it does, you know, it stings a lot. It's so stingy and so just, the pain is sharp, if that makes sense. I have never experienced any skin damage with this implement. It is extremely safe to use, but it is extremely, extremely painful. And so Coda likes it for that reason. He likes that he can, you know, make his point very, very quickly and very, very effectively. And it is definitely something that I do not enjoy or want to have to go through. But I know that if I earn a punishment, it's going to be part of the process. So the last implement in our discipline system is what Coda finishes every single spanking with, except correction. Sometimes he will use this, sometimes he won't. But anything that is like an extended correction and up, he will finish off my spanking with this, and that is our oval paddle. I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to do an in-depth review. It is just such a nice piece. But the reason that this was chosen was because it is lightweight. It is a very lightweight wood. I think it's like curly oak, I believe, or yeah, curly white oak is the spanking part of this paddle. I believe that it's walnut on the handle here. But it is a much lighter wood than the rosewood. It's even lighter than the purple heart. And Coda really liked the shape for my upper thighs and my sit spot. And that is where he will focus the spanking when he is using this paddle. And it's just a really effective way to finish off a spanking and to make sure that, that I'm feeling it in that area. It is extremely stingy. The lighter the wood, the more stingy it is, but Coda really loves the shape of this because it's really well balanced and it's really easy to use. And like I said, I did a whole video on it, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is a very effective paddle. Now, to answer the question of, do I regret choosing effective implements to present to Coda? The answer is no. I don't regret having effective implements in our discipline system because ultimately, at the end of the day, the reason we do this, the reason we incorporate domestic discipline is for it to be effective. And having less effective spankings is counterproductive to the goal of having a successful domestic discipline relationship. I need to regret my behavior. I need to regret earning spankings, and the only way to regret it is to make them, you know, to the point of being miserable. I go into discipline knowing that Coda is going to keep me safe. I know that he is going to be effective, but he's also going to be very, very smart. He's also going to make sure that I am safe, that he's not doing any damage. But I also go through the mental process of feeling like I can't take it, that it's too much. And that is part of the process, and that's part of making sure that I regret putting myself in that position. If my spankings felt easy to take, they wouldn't be a deterrent. They wouldn't necessarily make me take pause and choose different behavior. They wouldn't actually teach me anything. So I don't regret having very effective implements. And quite frankly, I think that Coda could make almost any implement pretty darn effective. It's just the ease of use that he's going to find in that process. So even if I chose less effective implements, he would still find a way to make them effective because he knows how to use the implements very, very effectively. He knows how to make things feel terrible. He has developed a technique of spanking in order to make sure that he is getting his point across. these implements just make it to where he doesn't have to use as much force and he doesn't have to use as much impact in order to get to that point. And that is really, that's for my safety, is making sure that the implements are extremely effective is for my safety, because if he was having to put more force and more impact behind the implements, that could create damage, that could create problems. And so by choosing more effective implements, it's actually not only better for our goals and better for the things we're doing in our relationship, but it's better for me. And so I don't regret choosing the implements to present to him that I have. And so I think you can see, but based on what we're using now, what we've used in the past, that we are always trying to choose effective but safe implements, because that is what is best for our goals. And it's also what keeps me safe as the one receiving the spanking. So hope that answers the question. I hope that you enjoyed seeing kind of our current implement lineup and hearing about it more, and we will talk to you guys next time.